Hello, world. Patricia O'Connor and Frida Reba Darcy here tonight. We are at Frida's place, and what you see before you is our California coastal oak. We shot a video today out on the balcony. It was cold and wet and rainy, and it was a short video that was more about it being cold and wet and rainy and that ambiance to that feel than it was anything else. But I was saying that we would be bringing something in later today. Earlier this evening, I was watching that, and I kept admiring in that video. I kept admiring this tree, so I decided at this point that this is our per diem for my co-star. I decided at this point that I would bring this tree in. It doesn't need a whole lot, but I don't need a whole lot either. But what I do need is a little bit of time. A little bit of time with this tree. I just think that it is gorgeous. It is a 40-plus-year-old coastal oak, California oak. It is an evergreen species. There are a whole bunch of different species, and a lot of them cross back and forth. So when I got this guy, I said, "Is this?" I named off something, and my answer was yes. It's whatever you think it is. I think was the general idea. It's a very nice looking oak. It's always been a very nice looking oak. A nurser, somebody who owned a nursery back in the day, planted a whole bunch of acorns. I believe like 100 acorns or something. And then many years later, at his passing, his nursery and his tree collection sold, and this was the one that he managed to keep after all those years. So it then became part of Jonas's with Bonsai Tonight's collection, and I subscribe to Bonsai Tonight. So when I saw this tree, I believe it was because of that. When I saw this tree on there, I went and got it. It was either that or I was at the nursery and I saw the tree and then got it. But I have seen several trees on his newsletter. And most of the time, his newsletters are more about teachings, and they are usually timely. Like what he's doing right now in his garden is what the lessons will be about. So, they're timely that way. And that's the cool thing about a newsletter over a video. Is a video is good for a long time too. But the newsletter, when it comes out, it might come out and be about something that you yourself will find yourself dealing with. I am really, really happy with the redevelopment of this tree. This tree had a canopy that was out to here. You can see we have our hollow feature. We have our hollow feature there, and it's a 40-something-year-old tree, and it's not a 50-year-old tree, and that's important, I think, because at 50 years, more or less, is when they make acorns. And so far, I have not ever seen this tree make any acorns. This is the moss. I think the moss is showing the way I have it. Yeah, this is the moss is coming in all nice and puffy. I took that moss and pulled it up. It was in patterns a little smaller than what it is now, and I ground a bunch of it up with peat moss and laid a layer of it back down, and it's starting to really come in good now. And as it does, it's good at keeping the weeds out. It doesn't do it completely, but it does make weeding a smaller job if I just stay after it. So, but also it looks really good in this pot. So that's another thing going. It the hollow feature. I'm going to turn it to make sure that it falls in the light there. That's something that I really so a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago now, the tree had a lot of dieback, and so I had to go back and make some heartbreaking decisions. I would cut something off, a limb off, and then the next day it would turn black, and I would go just beyond where it had just turned black, and I would chop it off again, and within 2 days you would see just whole 2 and 3 inch blocks of wood would do this complete change of color. And I was just like amputating something ahead of gangrene is kind of what is what it actually felt like. And it wasn't the most fun I've ever had in bonsai. And I ran a systemic through the tree, and then we finally recovered from that. But the comeback, it wasn't an unhealthy tree before then. It had already been on a feeding plan and stuff before then. So the comeback from this guy was immediate. You know, it was like it was treating it like it was treating all of that like a heavy prune, and I didn't prune it with anything in mind design wise. The only thing I had in mind was stopping the scourge that had my tree. And the amount that it has come back since then, I am so pleased with. You see me clearing a lot of this little tiny stuff down in the bottom. Last spring, I let all that stuff run, and it made all these knots. That's okay, I don't mind those. Those will swell up and become part of the bark. But you can see it made all of these knots here where all those little spikes are. This year, this is the back of the tree. Not a bad side of this tree anywhere as far as that goes. But this is the back of our tree. Excuse me. And why are we looking at the back of the tree? Because I've got some new additions here. This is going to be a new back limb, and this is going to be a new back limb. This is more going to be something on coming out of the side, but it is, yeah, it'll when it gets a little length to it, it won't look like it's coming out of the back. This is my new back limb. Um, there's another limb over here. This is a lower limb in the beginning of a lower limb. Everything had been cut here before. At one point, this tree had a substantial limb right here. It was a large limb right here. I can see why they cut that. I mean, I'm looking at the, right now, I'm like looking right here from this angle. You can see where it's been cut away and cut paste with, and now it's like rolling over. But that might have been a little low for a first limb. I don't think this is, and I'll look forward to letting this come out. I believe we started to gain a little height there. I was talking to Jonas about it, and talking about possibly, I've got a slingshot in 2 branches right here, and I've cut these back, and so now I've got like a club on the end here with all of this growth. I might work on that to try to get some of this huge wood off of here, but I don't know that I want to totally. Let's see how that happens. I've got some cleanup. There was a branch here, and there was a branch here, and there was another branch over here, and with all of those gone, we have they left their swelling behind. So maybe by the time all of these other things take over, that'll be fine, and this is going to get a little fatter anyway. I was asking Jonas if I should have cut this off now that everything else is coming through, and I don't think that, and he agreed that actually when I asked him, he said he didn't think he didn't think that that needed to be done, that just to let this canopy come out and be part of the canopy. Also, I believe we've gotten a little bit more length uh, over the over the growth that it's taken and over the feeding that I've given it. So perhaps this canopy can expand, can expand out a little. I don't think that would be the worst. I don't think that would necessarily be the worst thing in the world. So right now, with the temperatures the way they are, that little branch coming out there, does that show? Yeah, I guess it does. Right now, with our temperatures the way they are, the tree is a little slow, but it doesn't really so much care in California what our temps are. It's putting out pink stuff, little pink shoots, like it's spring, but it's doing it slowly. It's like the same growth pattern it normally would have when things are going well, except it's just doing it really a lot slower. Uh, these weeds, what we got here. But this has been mostly a very rewarding tree to grow. Uh, those little dieback issues we had year before last, or it doesn't seem like it was 2 years ago, but those issues we had were heartbreaking, and I hadn't had an issue like that with an oak before. So I didn't know whether or not I was going to be looking at a really long, drawn out recovery, or whether or not we would, whether or not we were 5 years away from being back on track. I don't think that's unrealistic. I don't think I'm 3 years away necessarily from having this guy back in some semblance of show shape again, which will feel really good. Um, this is one of those trees where oak trees are not hard to grow. But if you've seen me struggle with my cork bark oak, uh, it has been a struggle. First, I had to learn to prune it in order to get it to back bud. And then I had to learn to water it more than I had been watering it. And then once I did that and I started feeding it, we started to get the canopy growth that that we were hoping that we would get, and that I was at one point when I was new to bonsai afraid that I wouldn't get. All of that just kind of turned on and really started happening then, which was a good sign. But then, like last year, uh, I had a powdery mildew. I had a huge bout of powdery mildew, or so I believe. I might have had a little powdery mildew, which kind of, because I had that canopy going, uh, makes you want to go in and treat it. But oak trees do this thing where their bottoms will turn silvery. And sometimes you'll have powdery mildew for a couple of days and not really necessarily notice, because the bottom of your leaves are naturally silvery. Right now they're naturally not, because it's winter and they're wet. But I think sometimes that will catch you out and cause you to not notice what is powdery mildew. You don't want to have that happen. So you see that and you think, yeah, oak trees are not naturally a little silvery looking on the bottom. They got a little fuzz to them or something, a little peach fuzz, a little shimmer to them. And so you tell yourself that when it's powdery mildew, the next thing you know, the tree's covered in it. So you treat that, and then every time you see that silver, you keep treating it, because you've just already had that bout of powdery mildew. But we had it bad last year, and it seemed like also the more I treated it, the worse they got, which caused me to rethink my neem usage. I think it caused me to rethink my neem usage. I believe my neem was too strong, and it was causing me to sort of cause its own issues. And by too strong, I mean my full bottle of neem that had been mixed at the right mixture had been allowed to evaporate off. The water had, which would have left the neem too strong. I'm not 100% sure, but that does sure seem to make sense because I had always had good luck with neem, and last year I didn't. And I started really thinking about it, and I was going, I don't know if I want to continue to use this. But I'm like, well, you've had a bunch of years where this has worked. What's going on? And I kind of did a little, and it's like, it's not like I had so many problems that I went through that bottle really quick. No, I didn't. That bottle that I mixed last summer probably lasted most of the summer, and half of it evaporated off, and half of it actually got used. So towards the end of the year, I was when we had a fall issue. By that point, I was probably squirting the trees down with oil and not really paying attention because I was paying attention to what they had, which was the dreaded powdery mildew. All right, I've kind of done a little bit here, not a whole lot. I've clipped a couple of things. I've mostly done some weeding. I really love the way this tree is coming back. Whenever spring comes along and it starts filling up with all these little seminy shoots, I expect, a lot of what you see on the tree right now, we made last summer. And this, because of last summer, we were able to make an awful lot of secondary. An awful lot of secondary. And come this time around spring, or between now and spring, I'm going to see what else busts out and shoots out. We should be able to fill in a lot of these areas, and then we'll get it out to here. And when we have ourselves out a convincing canopy and it needs to be pruned, then I can go in and I will be pickier, right now, I've seen people style oak trees and not necessarily take out limbs that are straight up, because that's really, that's something that they do, that's as much an oak thing as anything else. But in bonsai, it's not considered, it kind of like cuts out the light whenever you're like taking out things that you leave the things that build the structure that we want to see, and we take out the things that are gonna basically gonna block vision of that, or block the light from the things that we want people to see. So that's kind of the thing. Even when as a design aesthetic, an upright limb is something that's very natural for a tree. I might leave it on there because it's not, it's still like play with our rule of threes or whatever, and I'm not necessarily going to worry about that one that's up or that one that's back. I'm not going to leave any threes somewhere if I can help it. But somewhere, whenever this tree has a really full canopy, then I can go back through, and some of the things that we allowed early on because we needed stuff, we can make more design motivated choices over. And we do that for a year or two, and so I'll go through it after it looks a lot fuller, and I'll cut out some of the things that are straight up, or some of the things that are straight back, or some of the things that are looking like they're too many branches coming off of one end or something. And then but maybe I won't take everything I see off, but a third of it or a half of it. And the following year, what we pruned and what we've made room for will give way to other things that are helping our design aesthetic too. And we'll go in there and we'll take off another third of the things that we saw before, because they were right there to be seen and they will not have gone anywhere. And at that point, that's I think from now on, it's easy to see a tree that I don't feel just absolutely that I don't feel sad about. To see it as my little chopped up 40-year-old oak tree, it didn't look depleted energy wise. It looked like we sure had a lot of energy to fight with. But man, this little guy sure looked beat up. You can see all those knots now where I let all that new growth. And this is those little new limbs that we allowed to grow. I'm really happy about that decision. I believe that bringing the canopy down here that way You know, this guy is kind of going down. So whereas there was a limb down here at one point, having this guy come down here, that's going to help us out. I think that'll be cool and give us more going on down there. I believe we might have got a little bit of height there. I was concerned that this is too high. So the back branch is cool. The for sure back branch is cool. So this is not really a back branch, especially as it gets a little length to it and comes out some. We're gonna have these two guys coming out, and then that's our back branch. I think that's going to add to the design aesthetic. They are not growing quite as fast as the other shoots because they're in shadow, but they seem to be healthy, and I'm kind of leaving them alone. I'm not wanting them to mess up. Uh, but yeah, and that's kind of about all I can do to this. I've got the grounds here cleaned up. There's nothing else I want to cut off here. Uh, I only saw about two things in the canopy itself that I thought might have needed clipping, and I got those almost immediately. We also had a spider web. Uh, he or she is welcome to stay in there. That's absolutely a fun place for those guys. Yeah, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Tomorrow, I'm not sure whether or not we're going to be back in the rain or not, but we'll go out and we'll shoot it no matter whatever it is. Either will be interesting. A rainy day out on the balcony will be interesting, or a sunny day. Uh, I think equally would be good. I'll take either one of those. We can make something happen with either one of those. I appreciate you, and Frida appreciates you, and thank you so much for watching.